Hare Krishna. Don't just change your view, change your worldview. Sometimes, if things have been going wrong repeatedly with us, for example, say if in our office we have been passed over for someone else for a raise or a promotion, and there is a cumulative negativity around us, at that time we may be told by our friends, well-wishers, or even by our boss, you need a change of scenery. They may recommend going to some natural retreat place or some other place where one can relax for some time. Things are becoming stressful, monotonous, dry. So they say have a change of scenery, change your view. In fact, even when people live in cities, they sometimes go to retreats in natural places where they feel more peaceful. And change of view can indeed offer relief at times. At the same, still we need to know that that relief will not be sustainable unless we change our worldview. So changing our view is basically changing our externals so that the externals are less agitating, and then we are more peaceful internally. This is helpful, but to a large extent in our life we can't change our externals much. There are certain externals which are going to be as they are no matter what we do. So to deal with them, we need to change our worldview. Because what does changing our worldview mean? That we need to look at the world from a different perspective. Our worldview is the fundamental prism, the lens through which we look at the world. And to the extent we are caught in that worldview, we may not even be aware of our worldview, but we look at the world through certain worldviews, and accordingly certain things mean some things or the other to us. So most of us by default have a materialistic worldview, and as long as we have a materialistic worldview, we tend to think of success and happiness in terms of material things, the possessions and positions that we have. And if we don't have particular things, we feel dissatisfied. So if we want to find lasting happiness, we need to change our worldview. That means we need to redefine, reassess and redefine our conception of happiness. Such a reassessment and redefinition happens when we study the Bhagavad Gita, when we understand that we at our core are spiritual beings, that we are essentially not material beings who need material things, whose pleasure depends on material things, then our whole conception of things around us changes. So the spiritual worldview helps us to understand how our happiness depends on our spiritual integrity, on our spiritual health, on our connectedness with the supreme pleasure principle, God, Krishna. To the extent we are connected with Him, to that extent we are happy. And to the extent we are disconnected from Him, to that extent we will be unhappy. And when we just change our worldview, when we no longer think that we have to be dependent on external material things for happiness, but we look for our own spiritual being within, and and we look at the supreme spiritual being who is also within us, and we connect our spiritual essence with the supreme spiritual being through devotion, then we experience non-material enrichment. And when we experience non-material enrichment, that doesn't mean we renounce the world. Rather, we are able to turn away from our dependence on the world for our self-worth and self-identity. When we have established our self-worth and self-identity in our inner connection with the Supreme, then we can see how the world and its opportunities can be used positively, constructively for progressing in life, and thus we can move onwards. So the Bhagavad Gita tells us that Mamaivaamsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana manashasthani indriyani prakritisthani karishati. It says that Mamaivaamsho jiva loke, that we are all parts of Krishna and eternally His parts. But when we become disconnected with Him and start looking for happiness externally, then manahishasthani indriyani prakritisthani karishyati. As long as we define happiness in terms of pandering to the mind and senses, we will experience karishyati, struggle. But when we change our worldview, when we no longer define happiness in terms of pandering to the mind and senses, but we redefine happiness in terms of our connection with God, then this karishyati, struggle, will be replaced by akarshan, by attraction to Krishna, and therein we will find lasting satisfaction. Thank you. Hare Krishna.